and Community Manager for Hornbill. I'd like to welcome and thank you for joining today's webinar, where we'll be looking at Service Catalogues with Nadeem Mazhar, Application Consultant here at Hornbill. Just to inform you, the delegate audio will be muted during the presentation to help facilitate flow and timekeeping. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type into the GoToMeeting question facility on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll collate the questions and answer them at the end of the presentation. Thank you very much for taking the time to attend today. I will now pass you over to Nadeem.
Thank you, Anna, and a warm welcome to all the attendees. Today's webinar is an introduction to Service Catalogue, the principles, the approach to implementation, and lastly, a short demo of Service Catalogues within Supportworks. At the end of the webinar, you have the opportunity to ask questions. So who is this webinar aimed for? Organizations that want to have a refresher on Service Catalogue, organizations in the process of implementing a Service Catalogue, and organizations that are new to the concept of Service Catalogue. Today's range of topics span from definition of Service Catalogue, the type of services involved in a Service Catalogue, why would an organization incorporate a Service Catalogue, the implementation approach, some examples of Service Catalogues outside of the IT scope. We'll have a short demonstration of Service Catalogue in Supportworks, things to consider when implementing Service Catalogues, and finally a range of questions which you have the opportunity to ask me. What is the definition of Service Catalogue? In ITIL v3, the services now sit at the heart of the framework, and this is included within the Service Catalogue management. ITIL defines the Service Catalogue as a database or structured document with information about all live IT services, including those available for deployment. Based on the previous definition by ITIL, I will break this down even further. It is also known as IT Service Portfolio. It is part of the portfolio management in ITSM, where the entire lifecycle is managed. This includes pipeline, published, and retired. It is a list of technology, resource, and service offerings within an organization. The Service Catalogue is the only part of the service portfolio that is published to customers, and it contains information about deliverables, cost, contacts, and procedures for a request of service. For some, it is basically a shopping cart for request of services. It may have capabilities for approval and possibly reports and availability of services. This may also be known as service request and fulfillment. It was introduced in ITIL v3 as a best practice for service management. A point to note, the topic of Service Catalogues can provide many forms of ambiguity, so people use the term for many different things. So it is essential to get the definition right at the very start to understand that everyone is on the same page. Types of services. In this slide and next two slides, we'll discuss the two types of services associated in greater detail. And then, as you can see in the diagram, the main Service Catalogue sits behind the live IT service, which is further broken down into two types, business services and technical services. The Business Service Catalogue is a user-facing service catalogue. It is a list of all the things a user can request from the IT department. This can often be implemented within a self-service portal. This is often supported via automation, such as Supportworks Business Process Module, to aid efficiency with some pre-authorization. Some typical examples can include a new starter, so such activities can include creating user accounts, access rights, provision of hardware and software, assignment of desks and none other IT-related resources. This could also form a package of offerings. Another example is a new hardware request. A user can log in to the portal and request a new laptop or additional components, which can then go on through an authorized process. Technical Service Catalogue. Although the Service Catalogue should provide a list of all services that are offered by an organization, it is not necessary to display these components to users. The way to look at this is, for example, a restaurant. The restaurant has a menu that customers can browse and choose which food and drink to order. The restaurant provides a chef, waiter, cleaners, as well as the food. These all interact with the user in one way or another and are services. But unless the customer pays for them, they are just components behind the scenes used to provide the services. A technical service catalogue is used internally by the services provider to better ascertain which services are being used by customers. This is usually the components used to plan and maintain the services to determine the levels of availability, continuity, and capacity. Examples include hosting services, security, and emails. As you can see from the diagram representing the email service, the user will see the business service email. But the technical components required to provide this service will be hidden from the business user's view and thus classified as a technical service. Why Service Catalogue? While Service Catalogue, it may seem like a formal documentation process, they can provide value add to an organization. Often, this can enable IT to think outside the box, and often the case for organizations to enable self-service portals and to reap the benefits of cost savings. This is not just limited to IT. We will come later on to examples as to how the Service Catalogue can encompass other shared service groups within an organization, such as HR facilities. Below are some examples of how service catalogues can benefit an organization. One such benefit is improved visibility. IT service catalogues can describe services in clear business terms. Whether end users are internal or external facing, the catalogue can help them better understand the level and types of services offered and how they will be deployed. This can raise key information such as deliverables, costs, availability, and ownership of the services. Can you imagine buying something from a restaurant from a menu missing the price and ingredients, for example? Another example of value add is automized support. Service catalogues can help IT desks reduce inefficiency in the support of services offered. By highlighting how services will be deployed with associated timescales, this can reduce both errors and waste. With the addition of a self-service desk, this can often reduce the volume of calls reaching the desk and enable analysts to perform tasks rather than administration. Service catalogues can also be used in conjunction with ITIL modules such as Instant Change Problem and collaborate with CMDB. Service catalogues can also be used in conjunction with self-service desks to not only save operating costs, but in many instances can accelerate resolution times and thus user experience. Users can also check on the availability of resources, for example, whether a printer is offline, without having to queue up for ages on a phone line to an analyst. Users can go to a one-stop shop to request services from not just the IT team, but from other shared desks or departments. Enabling a service catalogue also simplifies user needs. They're not bothered about what occurs behind the scenes, but to get their request fulfilled. Financial insights. Combined with reporting, it allows organizations to gain financial insight into service cost and consumption, the returns that they deliver, and help minimize expense to ensure that correct funds are allocated to the correct places. Service catalogues also enable organizations to better allocate resources, thus increasing operating efficiency and reduce operating costs. Service catalogues can also aid reporting. Implementing a service catalogue enables an organization to track and manage utilization of services, as well as forecasting. Reporting at different levels can enable IT within an organization to demonstrate the value and contribution. With reporting, IT can track obstacles such as underutilized assets, services that are in decay, and lack of perceived value. Some examples of reports can include service utilization, successful services versus underused services that do not deliver, service demand, which users raise the most requests, time spent, and cost of services. How do you approach an implementation for a service catalogue? In this section, there are many processes and approaches you can take to implement a service catalogue. Today, I'll simplify the process into 4 stages and highlight the activities needed to take place in each one. These 4 stages are planning and strategy, design, build services, and publish and review. The first stage I would consider would be planning. Implementing service catalogue from top-down approach is driven by business needs, and this is also recommended by ITIL. First of all, define the services presented by your organization. You can review this from existing ones or create new ones. Analyze current service environment, from which will include the services, systems, and resources to identify and implement improvements and to ensure appropriate project planning. You should also identify the key reasons why the organization is implementing a service catalogue. Include the scope, purpose of the service catalogue, sources or factors in what to include, and identify and categorize stakeholders in the process. It is essential that this is corrected at the start of the project. This is because if you ask 10 out of 10 people what a service catalogue means, then you'll get different answers. Therefore, it is recommended at the start that everyone is on the same page and the same level of understanding before you start the implementation. As with defining scope of the project, it is essential that the organization analyzes user needs and requirements. Who will use the service catalogue? What service are they likely to use? This may be difficult if the principle has not been used before. The organization should also create a team that would be called the service catalogue team. The team would represent both viewpoints from IT and from the business. You should always allocate a user who would be the owner of the service catalogue and to be the main point of contact for the implementation, and also assign roles and responsibilities. Finally, identify success criteria and KPIs. What will define a service catalogue? Will it be used to drive down cost, reduce the number of service-related calls to incident management? These are some things that would be good to think about. Once you've considered the planning and strategy of the service catalogue, it's time to go on to the design phase. In this phase, an organization will have the opportunity to engage service catalogue workshops to capture requirements and business analysis. Working in collaboration with other business units, services can be documented and then agreed upon. This is also to present a clear view to what a service catalogue is and what it will deliver. Upon review of existing services, start to build the new catalogue with a clear dependency on users, IT components, CIs, third-party suppliers, for example. The service catalogue team can define the level of services and categorize the different types that will be provided. This will give a view of service demand and to validate all the services being used. You can also decommission or alter services. SLAs, OLAs, underpinning contracts can also be applied to different level of services that are yet to be published. This can be agreed by the business owner and the IT owner. Costs can also be associated with services to start building the financial insight. Once all the information has been gathered, it is the appropriate time to consider the type of information that is to be stored within a document template. The build stage is a stage where you start to implement the services within the document templates within the Service Desk tool. You can then define business processes that will trigger the fulfillment of the request. This is done by the Business Process Management module within Supportworks. After completion of the initial catalogue, it is essential to review to make sure that it makes sense. The names of the items may change some of the service names, for example. Once the initial build has been completed, the catalogue is essentially on a dry run or pilot phase, or you can say a beta stage. In this phase, it is necessary to test and monitor the service catalogue on a regular basis for reporting purposes. This can be presented to a small team of testers or to a department, otherwise known as beta testers. It is worthwhile to engage with these users to obtain feedback on the usability. Also, during the pilot stage, the beta users can be monitored by the Service Catalog team to measure usage and adoption rates. In conjunction with the dry run or the pilot phase, the implementation team can conduct training sessions, workshops, and send out information to trained end users. So once you've done the beta stage or the testing phase, the pilot phase is complete and the service catalogue is ready to be published if all the test criteria has been met. This is often gauged by reports from the beta stage, and if, for example, any stages are not met or successful, then the service catalogue team may, of course, wish to update the processes or the services if required. The list of services can be published to the company intranet in conjunction with the self-service portal. The Service Desk analysts are able to link the service catalog requests to different call classes, which can be demonstrated at a different webinar. Instant change and problems can be raised once a service catalog service has been raised. Once the service catalog has matured, they can be reviewed for metrics for meeting KPIs and successful critical success factors, which has been listed in the first stage, the planning and strategy. The services can be further tweaked and additional functionality can be added if required. However, once it's gone live, this is not the end of the implementation. It is essential to gain feedback on a regular basis from end users. So, the service catalogue is not just limited to IT. I'm sure a few of you today attending are thinking about creating or have created service catalogues for other desks within the organization. Here are some basic examples. For example, HR. Users can request holidays. This will have approval and rejection. The finance department users within the organization can raise a request to a finance team. For example, they want to change their bank details or maybe submit expenses. The facilities team, for example, if the room is too hot, and this may be applicable as it's summer coming, they may request changes in the aircon temperature. Beware, this may cause arguments within the office. Reception, a department may request a guest pass or for a visitor to the building. So these are some very, very basic examples of services that can be raised within the system, and yes, it's not limited to IT. So this is just a brief introduction. I'm now going to give you a brief look at service catalogues within Supportworks. First of all, we will log in to Supportworks. And as you can see from the top of the screen, the service availability. So all the services that I have within my system, it will show me on my dashboard which services are currently experiencing problems, which are online. So let's have a look at some of these existing categories that we've produced. So here are a list of some of the existing categories. And once I go to one of them, human resources, they are listed divided into categories and subcategories. Supportworks ITSM uses service categories to support services in your portfolio and allows each categories to have their own set of custom properties. So we'll select one of these categories and see the initial information. So have a quick look at the subcategories here. And here's the associated ones. So if you go to the service category, category details, so the initial information which it has is the name, the service category, and then if this service category is a subcategory, then I have to have a parent associate. And of course, fill in the department description that is associated with this service category. The status definitions will look at the operational status of the category, and then you have the relationship tab, which will list the relationships that are associated with the actual category itself. And again, if you go to a subcategory, it will have the same information as per the main category, except it's not. This will have to have a list of a parent category associated with this. Okay, so that's the categories. We'll take a look at the actual services form. So go to services, and I'm going to list all the services in my catalog. As you can see, I'll pick up one that I'm familiar with, which is the new starter process. Okay, so here's a new starter form, and it's listed with the service ID and the service name, the new starter. I would associate the business service or technical service with the service. Yeah. So this is a business service by default. Then you've got the list of users. So at the moment it's got 56 users. The maximum users it can do is 100. So once it goes beyond the 100 stage, it won't allow you to accept any more. And you've got the forecast in there. And then you've got your package offering. So if I select the package offering, this will open up the service option tab. And you can see a list of components and optional components that are associated with the service. So you can pick and choose the optional ones, and the standard components are the technical components that are associated with this particular service. You'll go to portfolio status, and you can see the list of statuses, and then you've got the life cycle status, so if it's operational or released. And the service category that we showed earlier can be associated with this particular service. And then you have your operational status, is it offline or online, which is again tied in with the service category. You'd have to associate the business owner and the IT owner. So the IT owner is the IT member of staff, and the business owner is the business unit contact. Then you can go into the costs center. So this will associate, each component will have a cost or price associated with this, and you may want the customers to see the prices on the self-service desk. And this will be calculated automatically in the system. The most important would be subscription and revenues. There are three types of customers associated. You have your three types of services subscribers. There are the customer, department, and the organization. So with these types, inheritance is automatic. So we'll take a look at one, Joshua. You can see the subscription type, when the start date of the subscription occurs, and the services that are associated with Joshua. Okay. So once you've associated with different customers, we need to make sure that customers can raise this on the self-service desk. So we enable the request logging form. We can associate a service group. So we associate the service first line. We can associate business processes, so a pre-authorized process to the service. And also a self-service wizard, so a series of step-by-step protocols which, when the customer logs into the self-service desk, can follow in order to get this service logged. And then you've got the other bits of information to fill in. So we're now going to look at the self-service desk and look at the service requests, how to raise them. So I'm going to log in as Alan Castle. And when you log into the self-service desk, you can see the notifications of which services are online, offline, or faulty. If I go into My Services, I'll see a list of services that are associated with myself, or Alan Castle. And you can see the service catalogue that's published to just Alan Castle. Different users will have different service catalogues. I'm going to go into Human Resources and the New Starter process. And if I click on the published service, I can see the list of the description of the service available, when it's available, the support options, and the contact details of the service. And if I go on to raise service request, then you can see the start of the wizard. You also got the service costs that are associated with this service. So these are the types of information that can be shown for the customer from the customer point of view. Okay. So this is a basic overview of how Supportworks can carry the service catalog information within the parameters of Supportworks. So finally, things to consider when building your service catalog. Start off small. So I would recommend starting off with critical services first, and then slowly building up the catalog rather than rushing and just putting all your services in one go. Always listen to user feedback. Think of customers first. Are you building this because you feel like, okay, it's an ITIL process and you want your process to be ITIL driven, or are you meeting customers' needs and wants? One of the main confusions with service catalogs is people confuse this with CMDB. A CMDB, or the Configuration Management Database, is a repository of all things IT related. The service catalog is the management of services and components. So the CMDB is very much a technical and back-end of the operations within the IT desk. And remember, it may not work first time, and if at first it didn't succeed, then just don't give up and scrap the service catalog. Simply review on a regular basis and keep modifying the actual service. This concludes my presentation. In future, we may have webinars that will delve deeper into the subject. So thank you for your time, and you'll now have the opportunity to ask questions. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you very much, Nadeem. A few questions have come in. Just referring back to the early part of your presentation, someone did ask if some of the examples given could be in a request catalogue.
Mm-hmm. What would you elaborate? What sort of examples? Would it be the HR examples? Would it be the examples for technical or the business services? Yeah, I had to have more yeah, more in-depth questions to that, if that's possible.
Yes, it would be the HR example, such as holidays.
Okay, that could very much fit in within the request parameters of Supportworks. I mean, you can within the service catalog. It's just not a service catalog where it's a repository of all your services. When you combine this with a self-service portal, you can split the different types of services, and you can create request support or request services. So it is possible to do HR example as a request within the request catalog. Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Someone's asked if this is going to be available afterwards. Just to let you know, yes, the recording will be on Supportworks dedicated YouTube channel, and the link will be emailed to everyone after the session and on the customer forum. The next question is, in an organisation that has already implemented the service catalogue but arranged the services in a non-business friendly way, what would Hornbill recommend to redefine the catalogue and make it more usable? I'm thinking in particular with reference to the self-service portal.
Okay. With regards to ITIL v3, on the top of my head, there is a section where you continuously review your service that you provide. So if it is not working or if it's too clunky, I mean, the whole point of a service catalog is it is meant to be user friendly, so users come in and they can log calls. So I mean, if what we would recommend is to continually review your processes, have your meetings, and do regular reports to find out which services are being used the most, which are not being used, and just continually review your services. And if they need to be modified, then you have your IT owner and you have your business owner. Those are two main owners of the actual service process. So if you find that it's being underutilized, it's not working, then those two should meet up and discuss the reasons why it's not working and modify if necessary. I mean, it's quite a huge topic, so there may be many reasons. Maybe the escalator is not working, or whether or not users are not finding the right service. Are there services that are is it being unused because of your internet is not being published? Is it not being advertised enough? There are many reasons why it may fail. If it's too clunky, then it'd be a good idea to review the ones that are not being used on a regular basis. So, for example, you have, like, say, 100 service requests. People are finding it too difficult to go through each one through the list. You may say, okay, this particular, if you do report, these, I don't know, 20 or so of these service requests are hardly being used. So it may be time to actually remove them. But again, this is a decision that has been made between the IT owner and the service owner, the business unit of that service. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you. The question is this limited to SaaS?
No. The product I'm using on my system is very much on-premise, so it's actually installed locally on my laptop. So it's not just limited to SaaS. For your information, I'm using ITSM, the data dictionary. I'm using Supportworks 7.6.2 and core services 3.14.
Excellent, thanks Nadeem. On the new starter service, the limit of 100 users, can that be set per supported company? The question has been raised because they're an MSP.
That's a good question. It's not a question I've come across before. I would need to double check that when I get back to my desk in my office. But that's a good question. I need to double check. I'll find out for you. So I'll just note that down and get back to you.
We'll come back to you directly with that one after the session today. The next question is, on the point of continual service review, does Supportworks have a way to query the service catalogue to find out which services haven't yet had a call raised, either via the client or via the self-service portal?
So, can you repeat that question, Anna? Is it?
So, regarding the continual service review, does Supportworks have a way to query the service catalogue to find out which services haven't yet had a call raised, either via the client or via the self-service portal?
With Supportworks, you have the option. So each service, when you do a cost of subscriptions, there should be a tab with the number of calls that have been raised against that particular service. So you create a service, and then you associate a log form. So it will be a support request or service request, and based on the actual form itself, you can see the number of calls that have been raised against the service. So there is a way of querying it. I mean, it's a very broad area in terms of what you want to query. I mean, if it's logged as a service request, you can see this. You can see within the service request form or the services form the number of calls that have been raised against that particular service.
Okay, thank you. There doesn't appear to be, oh no, sorry, one's just come through. The HR function for annual leave and sick leave, is this logged in the calendar that can be made available to users, and can this be tracked?
With the services, there is no calendar that is associated with service requests. I mean, you have calendars with change requests within Supportworks. This is simply a log form where people can, I mean, it's an example I've given. It's not necessarily the best example, but people can raise requests within service within the self-service portal, but unfortunately there is no way to actually have a calendar associated with that particular services, those particular requests. It's just will enter in the system, and it can have, if it's associated to a business process, you can associate authorizations and rejections to that holiday request.
Okay, thank you. Someone's just said they sort of just missed the end bit of that. Can you just clarify which version is required for services? What version of ITSM is required for services?
I've used services from version 7.5 onwards, but I'm using 7.6.2. 3.14. If you drop us an email, or if you let us know what version of Supportworks you're using, hopefully it's not too old. So if you send that across to us, we can find out whether we can support service requests, service catalogues on your system, in your version.
Perfect, thank you. We have another one. If specific requests of a service only apply to certain organisations, is it possible to filter the given options presented based on the organisation viewing the service?
That's a tough question. I need to, on top of my head, I'll need to delve into the system, have a little play around, and see the options that are presented. On top of my head, I won't be able to answer that question, but I'm pretty sure that once I get back to my desk, I should be able to answer that question for you. Just need to double check a couple of things on the system.
Perfect, thank you. Nadeem will again follow up with that directly after today's session. There doesn't seem to be any more questions coming in, but obviously if you do have anything after today's session, feel free to contact your relationship manager or myself, and I can pass it on to Nadeem for follow-up. I'd just like to thank you for taking the time to attend, and thank you, Nadeem, for presenting. I hope everyone's found it useful. As mentioned, it is a big subject, and we can certainly look at hosting another session on particular topics to delve into a bit more detail. But please let us know. These sessions are for you, and we really want to make sure that you benefit as much as possible. So do let us know any topics, not just on Service Catalogue, but sort of ITSM topics or Supportworks topics in general. As mentioned, the recording will be made available on the customer forum through the Supportworks YouTube channel shortly. I'd just like to thank everyone for their time today. We are attending 6 15 next week, so if you're happening to pop along to Kensington and Olympia, make sure you pop by stand 400 to say hello. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you at our next Hornbill Academy on the 11th of June on, I believe it's Sending Engine with Bob. And thank you everybody today. Bye-bye.